I gotta say, I might have been joining the biggest faction ever created by human hands. My first hour. Waiting in the hub only minutes before the release, talking about plans and strategies with my faction was absolutely crucial for our survival. So when the server released, everyone knew exactly what to do, and as soon as the server did release, I grabbed our faction name and I ran straight for the world border. I was pretty sure I was the first one to run, but I was still kind of looking behind me all the time, making sure that was actually the case. By the time I reached the world border, I was side by side with another player, but luckily enough, I was just a tiny bit faster than him and grabbed it right under his nose. I then proceeded to kill him in celebration of the corner. As soon as I killed him, I mined down and blocked myself off to make sure that I wouldn't get jumped. Because you see, I don't have enough faction power right now to actually get killed because someone would just simply overclaim me. From here, I continued to invite the leader of the faction, and then I did /wild to find the perfect location for my cactus farm. Luckily, or strangely enough, the wild command actually teleported me right next to another player. Luckily for me though, it looks like he was friendly. After running for a while, I found the perfect spot for my cactus farm. However, flying has not yet been enabled, so I had to wait it out. After about 15 minutes, fly got enabled and I was now ready to leave my faction to make my own temporary cactus faction. I started claiming for a 7x7 chunk farm, as the plan was here to kinda just go with this and see where everything went. To find the corners of chunks, I used stone so I could easily see where to claim and where not to claim. By now, it was time to use all my overpowered kits that I've had from previous seasons. And I was also going to open up a monthly quest, so I was pretty excited. From the overpowered kits, I actually got my first 14 million, so I was pretty happy, not gonna lie. I took a look at the funds GUI to see when I could use these roll tickets that haven't been enabled yet. And then I proceeded to open up the monthly crate, and I was really crossing my fingers for money and chunk busters, as that was literally all I needed. And I actually did end up getting both money and chunk buster, but I also got something called a chunk loader. This is something that's going to be very useful for when I place down my spawners. And from the monthly quest final reward, I grabbed 2 event loot bags that was absolutely filled with money. I took a look at the auction house and found that chunk busters were extremely cheap. Obviously extremely cheap to me, because I literally just had my 14 million. Anyways, I bought those chunk busters as fast as I could and teleported back to my farm. Now that I had both money and chunk busters, I was going to start chunk bustering my farm when someone fly right across my screen, absolutely scaring the shit out of me. It did look like he didn't see me, but I should probably have been more scared than I were, because as soon as I went to the ground, he jumped down and killed me. I'm not gonna lie, I was kinda pissed, so it was time for some revenge. So I grabbed the best G-kit that I had, teleported back, but he pulled away and actually ended up getting out because I had the cooldown of my bless. He was a lucky guy. Or so I thought. Because only 10 minutes after, I got absolutely jumped by the same guy and he brought a friend. I was now facing 2 players and I did actually fuck up because I pulled down into my goddamn farm where I had no escape. So the only way out was fighting 2 people in this goddamn pit. After about 1 minute, I gambled everything and had to turn my back on one of them to kill one of them. So I actually did end up killing one of them, but also almost killed myself in the process. But once I had everything under control, it was 1v1 and well, GG. After I had calmed down a bit, I started chunk busting and also kept buying chunk busters until I finally finished off the entire area. Now, I had a huge 7x7 chunk hole all ready for my cactus. I grabbed a gen bucket and started getting sand up in each corner, so when I fly up to the sky limit, I could see where the corners were. From there, it was pretty easy to just kind of start genning the walls in and start genning in the roof, and once I finished off that, it was time to load up my cactus schematic and start putting in all the markers where I was gonna line up my cactus line. After another 5-ish minutes, I finished that off and it was now actually officially time to start the cactus farm. 2 hours. I continued to print as much cactus as I possibly could. Thank God I had so much money, or there was no way I could have made this much progress in such a little time. 3 hours. Anyways, this right here is the result after some time. All I really needed now was collection chests, and luckily for me, I had already slowly started buying them cheap off the auction house, but even after I placed all of them, I was still missing a few. Oh, and I invited a friend of mine to help with all the cactus, so I jumped straight into it, and we continued to print cactus as a team. After about 30 minutes, we had almost finished half the farm already. Sadly, I had to go to sleep here, so I locked the note on for the night and hit the sheets. 13 hours. It had been a solid 10 hours and I slept like a goddamn baby. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty tired. But I'm now fresh and it is time to go absolutely crazy. But let's just take a step back here and look at the progress I had made. Absolutely insane. And in our collection chest, we had a decent amount of money as well, so I wasn't complaining at all. It did look like someone or something had killed my alt though, so I closed my alt off to make sure that wouldn't happen again. After that, I started scouting the auction house for even more collection chests and started selling the night's profit from all the chests. After that, I went straight back to doing cactus, but after 30 minutes, I had ran completely out of money. I was lacking collection chests though, so not all the cactus was being collected, so I had to figure something out. 19 hours. Something came up IRL and I had to dip for some hours, but when I returned, not only had my chests made 500,000 each, but I also had 2 collection chests on me that I assume my friend must have dropped on me. Anyways, I placed the 2 collection chests and I completely remember that I had 500,000 experience that I won from the monthly credits in my PV. So I bought collection chests for the experience and I actually had enough experience to buy the rest of the collection chests that I needed. After I placed the collection chests, I started selling the farm's profit and took a look at F-top, and I started to think maybe it would be a good idea now to start the grinder. I wasn't gonna make something fancy, so I just built down and used the gem bugs to make a little room here, closed it off at the end, and at the top, filled the bottom with lava, and well, there you go. I then used my faction client to search up iron golem spawners and bought some way cheaper than I could in the shop. I mean, I made some decent money already here. Then I started lining up where I was gonna place my spawners, placed my 8 iron golems, and spoiler alert, those 8 iron golems ended up making a lot more than cactus. I also recalled the chunk loader that I won from the monthly crate, so I got that placed and paid 250,000 to activate it. 21 hours. I went back to doing cactus and actually ended up finishing off the entire farm. My collection chest had also made a decent amount of money already and told my friend here how much iron golems made more than cactus. Just like me, he was absolutely shocked, and we started talking about the funds GUI and I realized that roll ticket had actually been enabled. So I did my friend a solid and shared my roll tickets with him and found a quiet place to open up my own, and I didn't really get anything crazy, so I was kind of sad about that. I then proceeded to start building a little hopper system right here where I was going to fill it up with invoice loot. The plan has always been that after the cactus farm was done, I was either gonna build one more or just simply start doing invoice. Now the decision here was to actually do invoice since IGs was making so much money. So I went absolutely crazy and did invoice for almost an entire hour. I ended up actually finding a pretty good way to grab those chests. 23 hours. I sorted out all the good loot and ended up with all the awesome loot in my inventory. I actually got some decent keys, enchants, and even got some iron golem spawners you could place. So obviously I did that and actually also ended up placing a few creepers that I got. So I was actually quite satisfied with what we got. I then started to proceed of opening the eggs and looking up prices for enchants and sold them all. I then double checked my invoice chest to make sure I hadn't missed anything valuable. I then flew to the corner that I got for my faction to see the progress they had made. I then checked the F-top position and actually kind of shocked to see how much value people had already gathered. And while I was doing that, my egg started cracking and I actually got a cow pit that I thought was worth a lot more, but ended up being, well, close to worthless. And there we are, guys. That is 24 hours in the world of factions. This is going to be one video of many videos this season, so make sure that you subscribe to my channel to stay tuned to every single one of them. And also, if you're thinking about playing factions, go ahead and look down in the description. There's going to be plenty of links and guides for how you can get started. I have even made multiple videos on how you can get fly and how you can build bases and how bases work, how cannons work, and so on and so on. So what on earth are you waiting for? Join Minecadia today using the IP dexter.minecadia.com and start your adventure.